Hey, how's it going, guys? As highly requested, today I'll be checking out the Samsung Galaxy Tab E Lite, available for $70 online right now, and $70 on Black Friday. So to be honest, I'm not sure why this is a big deal, because you can look at the specs back here, and it's got a 1024 by 600 LCD display. I want to see if that's also going to be IPS or not, and we'll talk about that more in just a moment. 1.3 gigahertz quad-core processor, 1 gigabyte of RAM, 8 gigabytes of internal storage, and a 2 megapixel rear camera. And the specific model is CSMT113. Now this is running a relatively old Android firmware, and it's Android 4.4 KitKat. So first off, I also got to say that the box is really small that it's coming in compared to all the other boxes that I've seen tablets come inside. You got the tablet itself here. It says it's 178 millimeters. Underneath that, you have the wall outlet and then a micro USB to recharge the tablet, along with a user manual here, user guide. So you've got plastic on here to get some more plastic. It's just hard plastic back here. There's some texture, kind of. And on the front, there's plastic too. It's always satisfying. If you've ever owned an old Samsung phone, it's similar to that, because on the back you have the speaker grill and the 2 megapixel camera. On the side you have the power button and volume keys. On top you have the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack along with the micro USB cable. And on the side you have the micro SD card slot that you can expand up to 32 gigs. Right there. On the bottom you do have this hole. I believe this is the microphone. I'm just taking a wild guess because it doesn't look like it's a reset button since it's so small, but it could be. I'll have the specifications down below with the listing. Then you have a multitasking tray along with the home button and then a back button. So it's nice to have physical buttons. So the screen is like a TFT screen. It gets really bright on one side if you tilt it, and you tilt it the other way and it gets really dark. There's also that kind of like distance you can see from the display and the screen itself. So that can be kind of inconvenient. You'd see those black bars on the side. There's a little over 2.5 gigabytes available. Now this was after some apps got updated, but not all the apps were updated. And it's running a really old version of Android 4.4.4 KitKat. Now this is from 2015 or something, or even before that. So yeah, really old firmware, so I'm just like kind of sad to see that. But surprisingly, there is some multitasking here. If you are on the home page, you can swipe from right to left, and then you can see some of these apps pop up. So you can open gallery and then another app at the same time, and then you'll be able to multitask that way. Now the thing is that there's only 1 gigabyte of RAM, so this can only work so well. But again, so far it seems to be kind of interesting, and things do look smoother than expected, so I'll give it props for that. There is some bloatware here, and not too much, but unfortunately you can't delete this bloatware. I guess you can turn it off. That's the only thing you can see, disable and reset, but you won't be able to uninstall all of it. The only useful app is probably the Samsung Kids one. If you're giving this as a gift to a kid or something, you can update this and set this up so that they can have like kind of a user interface, it seems like. Isn't that kind of funny? They call it Black Friday, but it's sound quality is better than expected. Again, it's not too loud and it can be easily covered with one finger, but nonetheless it's there. When I'm playing a game at 720p 60 frames per second, I do notice some stuttering here and there, but overall I'm surprised that it's able to handle this pretty well. So the camera on here is nothing special. Again, it's poor at best and it is pretty shaky. You gotta have a steady hand for it to be able to work out, and it came out better than expected actually. Take that back, what I said in the beginning, because you're able to read some of this stuff pretty well. So it's good to take notes in class or something. That's what I can see this used for. On the Antutu benchmark, this sets a score of 16,000. Now that's really low, but taking a look at it, it didn't test out the GPU at all. So this would add a few thousand more points. I don't know by how many exactly, but this should tell you how it's going to run for games. But again, we are going to test out games in just a moment. It could prove me wrong. It has a ARM Mali 400MP GPU with a quad-core ARM v7 processor, and that's not bad. Again, nothing special. For the resolution, it should work out fine, in my opinion. And it does have a small battery, 2100 milliamp hour battery, but again, it has less pixels to push, so it should be alright for the most part. So first game we're checking out here is Geometry Dash. And I'll just tell you this much, it's harder to record while you're playing, or playing while you're recording. And I do see a bit of stuttering, nothing too crazy though. Next game is Stack. It's kind of a 3D game. It's a little more demanding than you might think. And man, that could just be me, but maybe there's a little bit of screen tearing. So far, it does seem to be better than expected. I do notice some lag and stutter here and there, but it's still playable, I guess you can say. I mean, if I get to 30, it's definitely playable. Next game we have here is Subway Surfers, and this game kind of lags a little more than expected. Maybe not expected, but in general, I see some more stuttering and freezes. So I want to say it's playable to a certain extent, but when it gets a little more demanding, when it's like speeding up, that's when it's going to be, you might notice the freezing more at that point. Overall, I've got to say I'm impressed with this tablet for $70. I mean, first off, the biggest downside was that it's running Android 4.4.4 KitKat. It's a really old firmware of Android, and not all apps or a lot of apps are going to be supported. And on top of that, it only has 1 GB of RAM, so that's the other downside. And it has a 1024 by 600 display with the TFT screen. So basically, when you tilt it one way, it gets dark, and tilt it the other way, and it gets really bright. So you see like burned pixels. So it doesn't look too satisfying to see the screen. IPS is always better. That's why I'd also recommend checking out the Fire HD 8 tablet. That's going for $60 right now, actually. It's 8 inches, just 1 inch larger. The Fire 7 is also on sale for $30 right now, because right now it's around Black Friday, so that's what it's going to be at. It's probably going to come back up to like 40 or $50. But nonetheless, those are the other choices I'd pick out. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be testing out other tablets around this price range, so be sure to subscribe for that, and leave a like if you found this video helpful. As always, thanks for watching.